At the station, Mike Policy. Mike Policy. Well, Devo had to show me the text again. I had to read it again because I'm going like Mike Policy. Yeah, you guys. Wasn't that the guy that owned the San Francisco 49ers was Carmen Policy, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Look at you know. I'm
Yeah.
not impressed.
Yes.
That's what we doing. That's what we doing. You ain't got to turn my mic on. I'll use his mic.
Per our new policy. Our new Mike Policy. It's too much, man. You come in and then the new change. Does anybody met?
Y'all created it.
Have you met Mike?
Too much.
Carvey?
y'all created the policy.
I didn't create the policy.
You know, well, you were happy to embrace it.
We've had so many Mike policies around here.
Have we?
Yeah, I mean,
not familiar with
so it's hard to keep up.
I'm not familiar with one Mike policy.
The variouses.
All I know is I didn't hear this policy until I came in the studio. Can we turn her mic off?
There is
other little indicators, like the door was locked when I got here. There's little indicators.
The door is always locked when I come. You get a locked door one time.
You looking in the window.
Like you get a locked door one time, and you wonder why. One time. It's locked on me all the time.
No, you can't say that. It's been open lately.
A week.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. All right. So let me get it out the way, and then if you want to join in on the conversation, you're more than welcome.
It depends on what your conversation is. What you talking about?
Oh man, I was going to say something, but it would have been so inappropriate.
You know what?
Inappropriate.
When
has that ever stopped?
What else is new?
I try to, try to have some guardrails. Some, maybe you don't want to. But anyway, today is Wednesday, and so we're doing Wednesday's word. Wednesday's word is ethics. Ethics.
How was that Wednesday's word?
I chose it. That's how it's Wednesday's
word. Wait a minute, because that was a little strong, a little aggressive.
Did you hear the bass? Did you hear the bass? You hear that bass? You hear that dirty South bass?
We're going to have some ethical problems up in here. If you try to handle
Thank you. Use it in a sentence, Michelle. I'm going to kick your Use it in a sentence so you get the
We're about to lose some ethics up in here. If you have to be right one more time.
Mike policy. With the Mike policy becoming under ethics.
Carvey sitting there like, what's happening? What's going on?
Definitely on camera this time.
So anyway,
interesting choice of words.
Yeah. Well, it just seemed to me. I don't know what but it just seemed like it's in our ethosphere right now, if there's such a word, because we are. So ethics refers to the standards and practices that tell us how human beings ought to act in the many situations in which they find themselves as friends, parents, children, citizens, business people, professionals, and so on. Ethics is also concerned with our character. It requires knowledge, skills, and habits. Ethics. You got it in there? All right. Ethics.
So, are we talking about people having a lack of ethics, or
well, no, let's do
ethics
this.
Are questionable?
Let's identify what ethics ain't. Ethics ain't the same as feelings. Feelings do provide important information for our ethical choices. However, while some people have highly developed habits that make them feel bad when they do something wrong, others feel good even though they're doing something wrong.
Depends on what you do.
Damn sure do. Mike policy.
It depends on what you do.
And I think that's where we get everything that's good to you
is not good for you.
Yeah. Okay. And
life lesson, Carvey. Remember that.
And often our feelings will tell us that it is uncomfortable to do right things if it is difficult. Ethics is not the same as religion. Many people are not religious but act ethically.
Me.
And some religious people act unethically.
You.
Religious tradition can, however, develop and advocate for high ethical standards,
you like I tried to roll
such as the golden rule. He that has the gold rules. That's the golden rule. Ethics is not the same thing as following the law. A good system of law does incorporate many ethical standards, But law can deviate from what is ethical. Law can become ethically corrupt, a function of power alone designed to serve the interests of narrow groups. Law may also have a difficult time designing or enforcing standards in some important areas and may be slow to addressing new problems. Ethics is not the same as following culturally accepted norms. Cultures can include both ethical and unethical customs, expectations, and behavior. While assessing norms, it's important to recognize how one's ethical views can be limited by one's own cultural perspective or background, alongside being culturally sensitive to others. And then finally, ethics is not science. Social and natural science can provide important data to help us make better and more informed ethical choices, but science alone does not tell us what we ought to do. Some things may be scientifically or technologically possible and yet unethical to develop and deploy. That was the, if anybody saw the movie Oppenheimer,
Yep.
that was the kind of undergirding of that movie where they're talking about that they developed probably the most lethal form of destruction in the history of mankind. What should it be used for? Should it be used in war? Oppenheimer and others, I think Teller and some of the other folks who worked on the A-bomb, Einstein was really against the development of nuclear power for war. So that's it. And I remember because I went to a Catholic school, Catholic college, philosophy, theology, logic, and ethics is required,
Yep,
part
we
of
had
the
to
core.
take it.
So I did ethics. And one of the things that stayed with me was the definition of a morally ethical act is that you have to have good intentions, good means, and a good end. You have to have all three. If one, two of those things are missing, it might not be a morally ethical act. So it's ethics. Wednesday's word. 414-444-5250. 414-444-5250. So with the backdrop of that, we have a debate tomorrow night between two candidates. I think one of them is and I'm being kind to say ethically challenged, if not morally challenged. And one might even argue legally challenged, one of the candidates. So ethics. So when you hear that word ethics, what does it mean to you, Michelle?
As you were going through what ethics is not,
Okay.
there was a decision that came out in the courts in Israel yesterday.
Yeah.
That talked about, so Israel has a policy, basically it's a draft policy of service, that all of their citizens of a certain age, when they reach a certain age, they have to serve in the military in Israel. And I think for men, it's 3 years minimum, or I'm sorry, 3 years mandatory. And for women, it's 2 years mandatory military service. And I paid attention to this coming off the story that I talked about yesterday about these women who tried to warn them about the Hamas situation. But there's a sector of people in Israel that, because they're studying the Torah, they are exempt from this military service.
Mm-hmm.
And so there has been a big schism within Israel about the people who have to serve and the people who don't.
Mm-hmm.
They said initially when the policy was started, it only impacted like 400 people back in 1948. Now this is thousands of people.
We're talking about Orthodox, the very ultra Orthodox Jews.
And ethically, I'm trying to figure out, why would you be exempt if everybody else in your country has to fight for the country to exist? Why wouldn't you have to? And then there are these now Orthodox Jews. And then even within the way, that's why I really like what you did about what it is and what it isn't, because even this group of men who are exempt from fighting or serving in the military, they also get a government stipend. Their wives traditionally are the ones that work because they study in the Torah. And I'm like, so other people got to subsidize you and your choice, because it's a choice to study the Torah. so ethically, like when you was talking about that, that was one of the things that first, I promise, of all the things that could have popped into my mind, that was one of the first things that popped into my mind. Because as we've talked in this country about who serves, and usually it's low income people, middle class and lower income individuals. The military is a way out for a lot of people, and the wealthiest people in this country who benefit more than most people, them or their children never serve.
Well, the question becomes, if I live in a country, well, the interesting piece about that exemption was it was never codified.
2017.
Yeah, but they said in effect it was not like really law. It was a practice.
Right. Up until 2017.
Right, to the military. And so the question becomes, if everyone else has a responsibility to provide service and defend the country, and you benefit from that defense, then why then should you be exempt? And they're not being exempt. And I thought about that because I thought about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who went to prison because he and his sons would not register for the draft.
Right.
Right. And so in America, you can make a conscientious objector, and you have to go in and show on moral grounds why you are basically a pacifist.
Right.
And so we do allow that little carve out. Very difficult to get, though. I mean, the situation, I don't know if you remember the movie Sergeant York.
I know it, but I don't know.
Sergeant York was really, guy was a Medal of Honor winner in World War I. He came from Kentucky, and he was a wild guy. He got converted to Christianity, and based on his religious convictions, he felt like he should not shoot anyone. He shouldn't kill anyone.
Okay.
And so the whole discussion was them using the Bible to kind of convince him, because he did serve, because the other option would have been to go to prison. So ethically,
that becomes the challenge. And just like what Biden is about to do right now, potentially given a, what is it called? Is it a pardon? The U.S. military members who were outed as gay,
right, and
then they were discharged and not allowed to get any benefits. But these people did serve their country. And so trying to go, so like the ethics behind, I can serve my country and fight alongside you or do whatever we're doing. But because you don't agree with my sexual orientation, we've made this a policy based on, in most cases, religion, that we have excluded somebody, and ethically, is it right to do that?
And it was also cited, I'm gonna put in quotations, national security, because they felt that there was something called, during the Red Scare, there was something called the Lavender Scare.
Right.
And not only because this is Pride Month, there's all these documentaries out here, and so what it was they felt like you were a national security threat because you could be compromised. In the military, you always heard, and even heard Colin Powell talk about this, cohesion, cohesion of the unit. Like if people in the unit, and we got a problem. And look, a lot of America deals with homophobia. I'm sure, as an athlete, I have been on teams with gay people.
Racism. That cohesion was an issue then.
Well, that's why they segregated. That's why they chose to. That was the argument they made for segregation, right? And we saw a bit of that at the end of the Vietnam War, where people were relatively cohesive because they're out there battling. But as the Vietnamization of the war meant that Americans were less and less engaged in combat, which means now they're back at base. And those race riots, I had a buddy Jackie's dad, who was part of a race fight when he was in the Marines there in Vietnam. So it has always been, so cohesion is a thing. I think they throw it out there, but you're right, ethically, and again, it talks about culture, right? Talks about religion and how religion impacts that and what we then think is ethical.
Because and that, like I said, you could do that part again about what it is and it isn't, because ethics isn't always what's fair, and people confuse that. It's not
just, and that's where it gets to ethical.
And I shouldn't put it that way.
Well, but ethical decisions.
It's
that
not
people
always
make,
about equality, but it is about what's fair and what's just.
Just
That's
and
what I meant to
justice,
say.
then and ethically,
Not justice, but just.
right? And then ethically, it's about our character, right? You know this in politics. Politicians are making ethical decisions every day.
Right.
Now, I'm not talking about legal decisions, but the politics could impact an ethical decision that a politician will take. I might take a position. The position is, or the question might be, is it a strongly held position? I believe that it's right. Are there other influences that go into that decision making? So you heard "Ain't You Glad," but you should have heard the beginning was talked about choices that we make and those influencers on our choices. And here's something else. I think they talk about feelings, emotions, our passions, those things that drive us. That can blur us in terms of doing things that are ethical. They could be legal. And understand there's a difference
like you
between
said,
what
with
is
phrase,
legal.
what people say, you can, but should you?
Right. Everything that's expedient, everything that's lawful is not expedient.
Right.
Just because you can, should you? And I think that those are ethical dilemmas. And I don't know if people, there have been some situations I found myself in where I really have to make ethical decision. And I'm going to tell you that if you take it seriously, it becomes very difficult.
And I am somebody, I definitely live by trying to make choices that are ethical. They're like a whole, like, it's just like just everyday stuff. Like I would just casually say to people, like, I don't mess with nobody's husband. That's just raggedy and trifling. You don't do that.
But
I'm not gonna do.
But here becomes that is the hypothetical.
Right.
That's the theoretical.
Right.
Until you fall in love. Well, wait a minute, hold on, listen. Don't. And let's say I know you won't, but let's say you do. Then ethically, what do you do? Even though you acknowledge the feelings are there, the ethical question would be, do I act on those feelings?
Of course not. Of course not. And I know everybody don't subscribe.
We all subscribe to it.
No, everybody don't even subscribe.
We do. I think theoretically people subscribe to it.
No, it's trifling people. They don't care about it's a whole bunch of people don't care about.
I'm saying that when it goes into, you gotta, we have to acknowledge this. It is not always that black and white.
It's not. I appreciate it.
And so here we go. Here's my logic now. My logic kicks in after 2 times.
Okay.
So let's say you are a Catholic. Okay. Catholics, I wouldn't call it a prohibition, but Catholics don't do divorces. The Catholic Church tries not to. You give you an annulment. Right. Very difficult to get a divorce. So you have a situation where you fall in love with someone who is separated, had not lived with this person for 2 years.
Right.
Technically, they're still married.
Of course.
Would you still have the relationship?
Not if I actually subscribe to the tenet of that particular piece of the religion. I wouldn't.
Okay, but I'm asking, so based on that, and
that's not even an ethical thing.
It's an ethical dilemma.
No, because it's more religious. Because if I believe in the tenets of thou shalt not, whatever.
But doesn't that have impact on you?
It can be.
But your religion has impact on your ethics, right?
Yeah, but in that case, though, you can do things that are ethical that have nothing to do with religion.
I got that. But what I'm saying is, but this is an ethical decision.
Religion drives it more than the ethics.
It may or may not, because your ethics would say, okay, well, no, I'm not going to do it until, regardless of what religion says.
Right. But the fact that you brought up Catholic, blah, blah,
I only
blah.
did that because talk about divorce and how technically you could not.
But that changes the tenor of the discussion, because
so if you're
religion
Catholic,
is also a factor now.
There's a lot of factors that goes. Decision making is not just if I'm able to make snap decisions.
That it's not black and white, to your point.
Okay. You're listening to Community Voice. It's Wednesday. Wednesday's word is ethics.
Come up in here with this mess. people got to
Let
decide.
Carmi, can you
what's
refer
right
to
and
page
wrong.
8 on the mic policy to see if they can, you're listening to Community Voice. Going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. I think it's on page 8. You gotta.
Is it a buster policy? What section is the buster policy?
We hadn't even deemed it a mic policy until we got the check. We got that text that morning. Y'all and y'all new mic policy. Gonna get y'all.
Receiving threats, you know.
What is
Yeah.
the buster policy? I just want to know where I can refer to that.
You know, every time you do onboarding, you know, you should go over.
I get so sick of people making up new terms.
You never heard onboarding?
I know. Stop it.
You know when I first heard about onboarding?
Onboarding is irritating.
But you know,
people wake up the hiring process.
That's for new people.
Why did we have to change it from the hiring process to onboarding?
Onboarding.
Yeah, I'm saying
Because we're bringing them aboard.
Let me tell you some of the work I do with fatherhood. We do in-reach in prisons.
Yeah.
So we get these guys 3 months prior to the release. We do in-reach. We don't wait till they get out the route. We reach in.
Okay, but that
onboarding, you coming aboard.
You know what? I'm tired of white people making up new terms.
I didn't hear
for
that
stuff.
term until
I'm just
I
sick of
just
it.
retired.
And
in
everybody like
2009.
love saying it now. Oh, we're onboarding, the onboarding process, the
2009.
hiring process.
Bradley Center. I'm going to go down, a little part-time job. And
It's
Claudetta
amazing.
was,
One person make up a term and everybody just jump on
and
it.
she just kept talking about
Just
Keith.
like the word space. In this space.
Yeah.
You know, and
But you know what it was
in
before
the-
this space? This piece.
Was it peace?
It was peace.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. This
Yeah.
piece, P-I-E-C-E. Yeah, this piece.
In the no, because nobody said in the radio piece or
No,
in
no,
the
I'm working on this piece.
Working on this piece.
no,
back in the
because
day.
in this space.
Let me shout out Cassandra Daughtry. Cassandra Daughtry turned me on to peace in 1977.
I mean, yes and no, but think about it. You can't replace.
I mean, you guys even still say it now. You'll hear like I'm working on a piece of legislation that will cause for this.
I
You
mean,
still
that's
hear it.
yeah, but I wouldn't say I'm working on a space of legislation
No. But no, how did you do
gotta
that?
use it right
because y'all the one trying
No,
to
how
insert
did you-
peace where people use space.
No,
now.
we were using another word. I'm just saying that like peace was
Well, I mean, I will say this piece. I've done
Okay.
that, but I'm just saying the use of space is irritating.
and onboarding.
On board, it's just irritating.
Let's write down the list of irritating
People
words
just be coming
for-
up with just, and then everybody jump on it. Like all
I'll
of a
tell you
sudden,
another one that jumps out at me. Retaliation.
oh my god, really? It's so,
Yeah, retaliation.
It's so
retaliation.
really.
No, I was
It's
watching the news this morning.
really
And I personally think
retaliation.
I personally think that there was some retaliation
Retaliation.
in the news this morning.
Or
oh, you're
Pardon me?
talking about
You know, what I'm
Aisha
talking about.
Gar?
Yeah, that was retaliation.
retaliation.
but
some-
is
they-
anyone
they-
even using the word retaliation? though?
I mean, isn't that what that was in your opinion? My opinion.
Well, let me
was-
ask Michelle
was
this.
all
Was it is these frivolous charges?
I never heard Michelle use the word.
She
frivolous.
did. She reacted to it.
As I said this morning, we can talk about what Aisha did or did not do. That's not the point.
Yeah, it is the point.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that's the point.
The
So
point
where
is
were the
who
ethics
chose
in that?
the hence his word of the day. The point was the individual group that chose to bring forward this information and why.
Would that make that-
Debo's word, retaliation.
Okay, so they would make it unethical.
I'm saying they didn't do it for the right reason. They
Yes,
did
they
it.
did.
No, they didn't.
In
They
their
did it
mind.
because they wanted to get rid of this voice.
Right.
They wanted to get rid of this woman in this space.
Okay.
And her, questions and pushback and not supporting the referendum. And they started rifling through her garbage and her past to try to come up with dirt on her. This was predatory by MTEA.
Okay.
They don't get to walk away, like, oh, taxpayers, we did you this great justice. This was completely self-serving. She was one of the few people that would challenge the initiatives, the measures, the things that they were selling. She would challenge it.
Does she have any ethical responsibility in
Of
this?
course you do. Number one, don't put yourself in position to go to jail. I just can't do it with you. Felonies.
She was a whistleblower.
Yeah, but
That's another word that I'm sick of.
whistleblower.
Oh, somebody whistleblower just caught they got a percentage of $70 million that they
Yeah.
saved the U.S.
And I don't
They
know
got
what
like
this.
$13 million.
I don't know what this
Oh, I'm gonna
Boeing
be a
is. That
whistleblower
the
for
Boeing
13
guy?
million.
Is that the Boeing guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, Boeing right now. They just caught a fine and
Oh, the
No,
guy with
that
the-
wasn't the Boeing guy. That was another.
yeah, because the Boeing guy
The Boeing
is
guy getting ready to.
he get
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Oh, the
whistleblowing.
airplane, Boeing.
Boeing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me get 13 million for telling on you. I'm telling on you for $13. So,
You probably would.
well, if you're my friend, I
One
guess.
800 snitch.
It's on
It's not
speed
snitching.
dial.
It's not.
She got it on
snitching.
speed dial.
It's
That's number
not
2 in
snitching.
your phone.
See something?
If
I
you-
gotta say something.
If you are open about telling on people, it's not snitching. I hate
Hmm.
these chairs. It's not snitching.
Let it down.
All of it just does not work.
Carvey, can you get the?
Could be your hind parts, as my grandmama would say. Your hind parts.
It's just an irritating chair. Thank you, Carvey. Love Carvey. Don't like Carvey.
Sometimes, and this is just my
Thank you.
response, is that we get mad at the messenger,
No,
and we
No.
and we forget that
Nah.
there was an act there.
don't try it. Don't try
I
it.
did try it.
We already know that
They
there
didn't
was
make anything up. They didn't
there
plant
was
any
some-
evidence. They didn't drop any drugs on her.
why
and
they
then- and then-
bring
But
it
even
forward.
and when you read the article,
get rid of her.
There were some key things in that article. If you listen, they GPS. They went back and pinged the towers overnight, where her phone would indicate where she spent her nights. That was
clearly
a
has
real
an issue.
investigation.
She has an issue.
And could she be charged
But-
with fraud, voter fraud?
Well,
Because she did not either. I mean, that it was going.
I
They
mean,
were
like,
going to get
that's
her one
something
way or
that
the
even-
other.
Yeah, that even like that whole that you
That-
voted in the wrong district
I-
mess.
I
like she
just-
didn't even vote for herself. Jesus, you couldn't even vote for yourself.
Yeah, because she wouldn't have been on the ballot in that other district.
Right. You know, I
Well,
mean, like
she could. No, you're right.
yeah, the lack of judgment, and you're trying to figure out like what was going on in the background. You couldn't get out of your lease because I was like, did she own a home? Were you leasing a home? You couldn't get out of the lease. I don't know. I don't know what those backstory issues were, but if you gonna be out here fighting, then you gotta make sure your house is in order.
And that's
'Cause
that-
even
Or
at
you
that,
can
if-
explain whatever happens. And I'm not saying she can't explain because we haven't heard her side of any of this yet.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've heard her side when her cousin said she's never stayed here. Y'all ain't getting me. She on her own. She ain't never
I ain't going
lived
to
here.
jail for her.
That's what
Oh, she
That's
just my
what you read in
cousin.
the article. Her cousin said,
her cousin did say
Now, is that a snitch or what is that?
that's not
No, you don't lie to an investigator. You get charged,
Okay, so
don't
no,
you? You get charged
You
for lying
can.
to an investigator.
Calm down.
You can.
Calm down. Y'all so just extra. Calm down. She clearly has some issues.
Some splaining to do.
It
Ricky-
does
Ricky
not
said. Got
negate
some splaining to do.
how this comes to the public for.
It doesn't matter though, Michelle.
It does matter.
Why does it matter?
Because MTEA was being vindictive and
But they
trying
had
to clear the board of anyone
but
that they
Michelle,
didn't own.
Michelle.
No, you got to understand the inherent damage
No,
that's
no, we
being
get it. We
done
get it, but I
when
think
y'all trying to control everybody that sits on that
think
board.
if you don't give them nothing to work with,
I hear you. I've already said she's not
so
exempt
who was the plant?
from the ethical lapse.
Here we go. Who was the plant that got close enough to her to know where she actually lived?
You ain't
'Cause I'm
gotta
sure
get close. You ain't gotta be a
You don't have to
plant.
close,
All you gotta do is follow you.
No, they don't have to do that.
somebody
You do
befriended
this.
her.
Voting records. You go to the voting record.
I get that.
No.
part too.
But listen what I'm saying. to you.
Everybody don't have access to the voting record.
But you can go in and say who voted and where they voted, right? I'm talking about
Yeah,
the
you
political
can.
So
operatives.
you saying
Yeah.
public record?
Right. You've
Yeah.
heard people go like,
I know which voters live
Michelle
in my
Bryant.
district.
she running for US Senate, but she hadn't voted in 3 election cycles.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's that, and that
can
then
get access
becomes
to that.
yeah. So people going in. If they started there, right? Did somebody snitch and say, "Hey, she's not"? But I think
It's not somebody. They said MTEA provided the information
who
to
told
get the
MTEA?
There you go.
It wasn't about nobody telling MTEA. MTEA was looking for dirt on her to get rid of her.
Okay.
I just don't want that to be
And they
lost
started
in.
with where she lived. They knew to start there.
I mean, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know
That's-
how they
that's-
knew where to
that's-
start.
I think that's pretty low hanging fruit where they can go and say, if you live in this district, why
But
are you voting in
MTEA is
that
a
district?
political
But here's-
machine, so
here's-
they're going to have vote records and access to
They-
information.
They said in the article that you read this morning. I listened very attentively
Oh, here we go.
as I'm bored hopping and so
Attentively.
forth. But they said even in that article that initially, when she won the seat, she didn't live. Now they give you a time
I think
that
90
you,
days.
that you need
It
to,
depends
you
on
need to
the
clean that up.
Yeah.
And she just
Before
let it.
you, and I think in her case, before she assumed office, she had to have moved into the district.
So her fix was
whatever
to,
that
was to
time frame
say, "Hey,
was.
cuz I'm gonna say I stay here. Woo, 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 I'm gonna hit your hand." I don't know how it went. I don't let me.
Yeah,
add
see,
nothing,
embellishing, I'm gonna hit your
nothing,
hand.
don't let me
See
add
how black
nothing.
people do?
But
Just
she-
add details that
well,
wasn't even
she-
out
she-
there.
she
Well, it's
obviously
funny
had something
because as
worked
I
out
was
with
thinking
that
about this
cousin.
all about my whole life, I would have never gone to Parkman had I not used somebody else's address in the district.
It's a whole bunch of
Is
people
there
would
a
have the
statute of
insurance rates
limitations
they
on that?
have.
Oh,
and they
dude,
didn't.
we was at 53201 as long as
Look,
and then,
when I tell you when my son realized what the insurance rates was from 53216 to 53224,
right.
he was
Is
like,
the statute of limitations
Oh,
on that?
I hope it is.
He was like, I live 53224. Look, I'm telling his business. Like,
Wait a minute, Debo, and I'm such a dumb kid. I have to now. It took me long enough to remember 3371, right? You know where I actually live. Now I got to remember when they asked me what's your address. I'm supposed to say, 1312. I was getting ready to say 3371 North 5th Street. That would put me squarely in Robert Fulton's district. So
yeah, people lie to get in schools. People lie to get better.
the young
insurance
lady in
rates.
Ohio who caught the case because she lied about her child's address to get her in this particular school district.
Right, and was getting ready to do jail time.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not like people don't do it
How's that a jailable offense?
because
lied.
depending on state law,
Right.
yeah, you are taking
And
a
if she
seat
did a
from a
document,
child duly,
Right.
who should
So
have been.
falsifying an official document.
that too.
all of
But
that
yet, the
other stuff.
fake electors in Wisconsin can't go to jail.
Oh, he's
Ah,
going after him now.
No, he's not. He's going after the people who orchestrated. I mean, who came up with the plan.
Oh.
He's not going after the people who executed it.
Okay.
All right.
Josh Call.
Wednesday's word is ethics.
You got call, is it?
Yes,
Let's
we
see what they
do.
gonna
I
say.
may as well turn my may as well turn my mic off. Then we're gonna be talking ethics. I'm signing off.
Yeah, we'll get with you when we need any reference to the mic policy around here. We'll bring in our content expert here, our subject matter expert on the mic policy.
Yeah.
Caller, welcome to the program.
What's up? What's up? I'm Snitch.
What's up, number
I
10?
heard you. Yeah, what's up? Hey, I was just calling, and I know Aisha, and just like how she just loves kids so much, man. And not to say that what she did was right or wrong or whatever, but like how the heart wants what the heart wants. Like you fall in love with somebody, you doing stuff that's all wrong. Like you was quizzing Michelle about, well, when you fall in love, what you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it was with her, But I live by the thing: if I get got, I deserve to get got, because I ain't letting it happen, So, I'm serious. I live by that. They get me. I did something that I let them get me. Like Michelle said, I ain't trying to go to nobody's jail or anything else.
Hey, Kenny, that's interesting, man, because I was having this conversation with someone, and they were saying that they had a problem with da-da-da-da-da. And so I'm thinking, oh, man, this is ethical. I ain't going to jail for him. I said, well, the higher context is ethically I won't do this, but that fear of jail, man, it ain't that real. You got to admire those people who did all the nasty stuff they did under the Nixon administration to the point that they went to prison.
I mean, look at Trump's boy. He went to prison.
I was gonna say, look,
look at these people.
All them going down, on different things, losing everything they had for this idiot.
Yeah, the old man going to jail, the CFO of the organization, and getting ready to go again. Like,
But like I said, with Aisha, I knew her, and I'm telling you, she just real. I could see how this happened. She just was out there, man. She just loved kids. She wanted to do what was right.
Well, you can, I guess she did, because I don't love kids that much. That I'm going to jail.
But I mean, I think because you keep thinking you're gonna fix it.
I mean, because
right.
at the end of the day, you're saying
I'm beginning to take like you ain't don't know what the extenuating circumstances
for a good reason, but you're doing wrong for a good reason.
I mean,
that doesn't make sense.
If I steal because my family hungry,
right?
That's
people
different.
How is it people steal because they kids?
No, that's different because you dealing with a higher ethical requirement to make sure your kids don't starve. You have an ethical responsibility to provide for your kids.
MPS children don't continue to fail.
But then you know what I look at, like the day she was here and she was telling, and she was like, and there's more, but I can't go into it. You may as well have told it. She should have told everything she knew because she knew they was coming for her anyway. She got death threats.
Nothing to lose, right?
She had nothing, everything out in the open, like Johnny Taylor said. If you gonna get me, then I'm gonna get you before you get me.
Nito Brown. If I'm going down, I'm taking a whole lot of people with me.
That's right.
Nito Brown.
What was it? 2 weeks later?
Cash Money Brothers, baby. Everybody going down.
I never liked your print
anyway. So guess what? If she had told everything she knew when she wanted to tell it,
it still wouldn't stop this piece.
She would look like a hero, though.
She still looked like a hero.
You know, it's interesting.
People was chanting her name at the school board meeting. She's been at the. I mean, she's still a hero.
Yeah. But the question becomes, again, if we're looking at this particular standard, you may or may not accept it. Good intent, good means, good end. You have to have all three. Her intentions were good, but her means to the end is compromised.
But again, there would be people that would argue, you know, do the means justify the ends? I mean, that's why we got that whole little phrase.
And that was always, and that was one of the two-day discussions we had about that. Does means justify the end? I think it's the intent that should justify the means and the end. You know, like if it's like, and then like I said, it becomes more fluid and it becomes more nebulous. The whole issue down in Louisiana.
Words that I know, please.
The issue down in Louisiana is like thou should not kill. Okay. Well, we understand. What if it's war? What if it's self-defense? What if it's an accident and I accidentally take someone's life?
That's more than the issue, but okay.
No, it is the issue. So
are you talking with the 10 Commandments?
No, I'm saying that if I extract that out, that's one of those things where most people believe that it's ethically wrong to murder. Most people, not all, obviously, but most people believe because we got people out committing murder, premeditated, gonna do it. I
wonder why you looked at me, but okay, go ahead.
Most people,
she ain't no killer. She ain't no killer. She be like, I ain't no killer, but don't push me. Don't push me.
Carmen, get my purse.
You ain't gotta get my purse. You ain't gotta get my purse. In there. You ain't gotta get my purse.
So anyway, I think it's disappointing, just because of what Kenny cited, that you have someone who truly cares about the kids, and so that's disappointing.
Well, and I mean, I'm still open to hearing her side of the story.
Okay.
You know, and that's, I know, rooted in the respect that I have for the passion, the love that she has for children. I go back with Aisha to the trip that she took, and my nephew actually was one of the kids that went on the trip. Million Man, was it? I don't know if it was Million Man March or one of the trips she took to DC, so that these young Black students had an opportunity to engage. That's how far back I go with her and her work in the community and trying to bring cultural relevancy to education, and, you know, to also call attention to, you know, the things that she saw that were problematic. So I'm willing to hear her side of the story, you know, because we will jump.
Mics are open.
We'll jump to
remember that $24 million math curriculum that young guy pointed out?
Yes, at the school board meeting.
They're not going to do it.
Can you?
And here's why. Not because of the impact it was going to have and how disruptive it was going to be to have teachers have to go in and learn it, right? It came down to, because they're getting ready to lose about $30 million from the state, that $24 million would have really created a hole.
Yeah.
So that's why they're not going to do it.
But the point
is that the overpay money you were speaking to?
No, there was a $24 million math.
Well, I remember that part, but you remember they were saying that they're probably
an overpayment to the state.
Yeah, and that's what one of the rational. They voted, didn't even know what it was, you know, prior to it proving it.
Yeah,
because the guy got up and asked. I love this guy. I love watching him at school board meetings.
He's excellent. Yeah,
and he said, "I ask any of you who voted for this curriculum to tell me the name of the curriculum.
Just the name of it.
Just the name of it. And you didn't see anybody mouth it. They didn't. They just, okay, you guys want this new curriculum? Fine. But now that they're, and then it tells you, oh, maybe it wasn't needed.
I mean, like, number one, who proposes it? And then you got teachers got to relearn it. I mean, have to learn it.
Right.
Parents don't have a clue what you now. Right. And the kids have learned something one way. Now you got to go and learn it a different way.
And
I
this
think
is
that
a curriculum that's supposed to make algebra a lot more easier for them to.
We don't know what
it was just a math
It was
curriculum.
math
I don't know which
curriculum. Nobody
grade
knew
it
what
was
the content
targeted
was.
to.
The end result was that it was supposed to be able to get them more fast tracked in algebra.
Okay.
Yeah, because I never even saw all of that. You got more detail than I do.
Sure
But
do.
I know people,
Um,
Michelle. I know people too.
well, go ahead, bro.
I know people.
I know a guy.
You ain't the only one. That
Well,
know
I'm glad the
people.
cafeteria lady told you what was going on.
Well,
She
she
went
be
at the
listening.
meet last night. She went at the meet last
She be
night.
listening.
She could have been there, but the one woman who was there, who's still dealing with her grievance about her employment situation there, she spoke last night.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
I want to know why I got to be getting my information from the lady in the cafeteria.
Sometimes they know more that's going on.
They do.
You know,
I
you
didn't
sit
mean
up
that
here,
as an
we
insult.
kind of poo-poo like custodial
No,
staff,
I don't.
and they know more that's
I
going
don't.
on in the organization than a lot of people
They know how
do.
to be invisible.
Being invisible.
I
you
mean,
just,
Be
not
right
to
outside
just,
them doors hearing.
but just even
going
to
through the garbage.
Yeah.
that, but also assuming that because that's what somebody's doing, that's all they are, and that's
Mhm.
what they do. And I gave the example of being in the Capitol, and there was a piece of legislation that we wanted to do, and there was a black man, Mr. Henry, who used to come through, pick up all our trash, and pick up our trash, and just hey, and I would watch like young white staffers, people not engaging because you the environmental services person, the janitor, whatever. And I would always speak to him, though, because this is all black man. I'm gonna speak to you no matter who you are. But like, hey, sir, how you doing? I'm talking about this bill. We want this done. And he said, and I mentioned the name of the judge in Illinois who had something to do with this bill. And I was telling one of the staffers, I said, I'm trying to get in touch with, let's just say, Judge, Darren, about this bill. And Judge Darren. And he's silly. And Mr. Henry leaned over. He said, you talking about Depot Darren? Yes, sir. Okay. He said, "Yeah, get over it, Negro." He said, hold on a minute. He gets his cell phone out.
And he called Leroy.
He called the judge.
Wow.
And he said, I got somebody here that want to talk to you about some work you're doing. The judge said, put on the phone. Everybody in the office standing there looking at him. I get up and talk to the judge. I get everything I need from the judge. I get off the phone. I said, how you know the judge? She said he was my roommate in college.
Wow.
I said, where'd you go to school? They went to like Tuskegee or somewhere. I said, what'd you major in college? He said, I'm a, I forgot what type of engineer he was, but he was an engineer. And I was like, what are you doing here? He said, oh, Michelle, I retired probably 3 or 4 years ago and I lost my wife. And my kids didn't want me sitting around the house every day. So I decided just to come out for a couple hours a day. I can walk over here from the house and just do a little something.
Wow. You never know who you're talking to.
Yeah, that's the point. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right.
They talk when they're ready.
I was man, who what time did the jazz show end last night?
Who?
The jazz show.
10.
10? Sandra, girl, you was rocking last night. No, it's not Sandra anymore. No, hold on,
No,
caller.
you was just saying Sandra Silk last
Sandra
night.
Silk, yeah.
Last night. Who did the jazz show?
Who did the jazz show last night? Oh, well, Debo, whoever it was.
Sandra, you was right last night.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever was doing it last night, y'all was.
Well, what was so good?
Oh, it was rolling. It
Like,
was
I mean,
good.
what was being
the
played?
songs was good. Oh man, it was rolling.
Can I get the playlist?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. I mean, it was good
accommodate
last
that.
night. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, that
He looked
one of
like
those mic policies.
his name is
Okay.
Sandra.
Darren,
Club day.
Sandra.
That's club day.
Leroy.
Leroy.
I see. Did anybody bring up
Plenty
Leroy
names
but
on
you?
here. That's okay.
You brought it up.
We got a caller.
And hey, Meech.
You sure that's me?
Yesterday, no. Yesterday, when I was listening to Al Sharpton, they came to you and we didn't hear you.
What? He got censored on Sharpton?
No, he didn't get censored. He never came in because they kept.
Oh, they
going
was
with,
calling him.
Bro, Meech from
I
Milwaukee.
didn't know Meech was a part of Al Sharpton's promo now.
Is it?
That's what I heard. I didn't hear personally, but some listeners to the show
Yeah.
said, y'all know Meech is a part of Al Sharpton's
It
promo.
was bro Meech. And I kept waiting for Meech. I can't wait.
Right.
I wonder why he say Meech when he called in. would be Wiki Blue when he calls someplace else?
I don't know.
You got aliases.
Alias, club name. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
How are we doing this morning?
I'm doing very well.
Okay, I'm fine too. I was just listening.
Okay.
So my question, okay, it's not really a question, but I retired from Rockwell.
Uh-huh.
When I started with Allen Bradley. So we had a union, and our union protected us at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
Even though people was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
our union protect, just like you get a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
he's your lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
they protect you at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm wondering what happened that you got a teachers union that's helping to make sure this woman, get blasted as the biggest criminal in town. Something is wrong. And then you pay dues. We pay dues to the union. They even had to defend people that didn't belong because it was open shop.
And the thing that's interesting, because Aisha Carr is an educator.
Right.
And so I don't know if she is a member of, the teachers union, but she is an educator.
Well, teachers, but the Act 10 changed how unions operate in government, right?
Not for the police and the fire department.
Yeah, they had the exemption,
That's
but for
right.
everybody else, it, basically, that's why I was surprised that they were still giving people choices of what schools to go to, because seniority was negotiated in contracts. You wouldn't find seniority in.
That's why they own the school board. Because
Right.
if I can't get it done that way, I can get it done on the school
And so
board.
what you see is because of that dynamic shift in terms of what they could do, because you're right, they could bring in, look, I know what it is. I had to deal with ASME. I know what it is to have unions come in, and she's absolutely correct. We had employees who had no business there, and the union would fight tooth and nail.
Police officers.
Police
the
officers.
people who let counteract sentencing phone should not have been able to be returned to duty.
And that was
yet alone be promoted.
And that was a different time for talking about the power of the police union then.
Right.
I mean, so yeah, I think we have to look at it in context of Act 10 and how Act 10 then impacted collective bargaining units within governmental agencies. Again, the exemption being police and fire. But they didn't include correctional officers, did they? In that exemption,
No.
Right? Which is interesting.
They're trying to get them.
So you look at the Freddie Gray incident. That lady Mosley, whatever their last name.
Yeah.
Look at what they're doing to her. Because
what she get ready to do to her is what she did.
No, she got probation. She ain't going to jail.
Yeah, but it's what she did.
Yeah, she got probation.
Yeah. Okay. But what I'm saying is that if you just look at
crooked politicians do. Look at over in Chicago, how Burt, whatever his name is.
Oh, Burt.
He's going to jail.
Yeah,
I mean,
2 years.
look at the ex-president we got calling himself a president. Look at the voter fraud.
Washington was there?
Yeah, he was the one that started the race wars on the city council when Harold Washington was serving. He going to jail for 2 years.
Wow.
Look at the voter fraud, the money he had to pay on voter fraud. I mean, it's always something, when they want to put the blackface on stuff. But these things, they escape everything. And then there was a lady in Chicago. She just sent her kid. She lived in the city, and she sent her kid to a suburban school. Here, they tacked the jail sentence on her. She got the biggest crooks going, and they get a tap on the hand. And I think that is so wrong.
Well, she's probably going to get a tap on the hand, too.
I hope so, because I think
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know, because the MTEA is going to be like a dog with a bone on Aisha Carr. And they are going to pressure the district attorney's office to go at her fully loaded. And because district attorneys get elected, even though John Chisholm, is not running for re-election, but people will pay attention to the force of a union getting behind somebody's prosecution. I'm telling you, they will. Because they worry
look at
about
Rittenhouse guy.
Yeah.
Look at Rittenhouse. The judge, he was looking over the judge's shoulder like he was the judge's child. He sat there and shot 2 people dead.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but it was a white jury that let him walk.
But this is what I'm saying. They could get off, but when it comes to black people, we got to get crushed. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well,
okay.
all right.
Okay. Bye bye.
Next. Look at you. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Good morning.
Hello? Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. That's my Mrs. Carr. They knew that she didn't move into the district. So what I'm saying is they're not right themselves. Why don't they step down? They misled the governor and the state on the amount of money they're supposed to send in. And then they kind of misled us, but they really didn't mislead us. We just took the water and drank it, because if somebody tell you they want this much money on a referendum, but we don't know what we're going to do with it, we're not going to tell you what we're going to do with it. Y'all just vote blindly and say, well, let's leave it to the most vulnerable members, the children. Really, don't play that game, because you couldn't play it on anybody but people who thought, oh, the children will be disenfranchised when the money wasn't going for them anyway. Half the money they get is going to have to go to Madison, okay? So Mrs. Carr, they already have known that already, okay? I don't know what the story was, but they known that already. They've known that, because she should have just took the rent money and paid 2 different houses off with it, okay? That's what she should have did. I'm not going to get into all that, but I think that was just wrong, okay? It was completely wrong. The school board wasn't sitting there to know how wrong she was. I'm glad she bought it out. And I'd like to see her come on the radio one day, but she probably got to wait till this case is over. And I'll be willing to help start a GoFundMe page for her legal fees, okay? It's not the woman did wrong. All these people in office have done wrong, and they're still sitting here, including Chisholm in the police department, who don't charge people and cops for what they do wrong, but want to put somebody else in jail on some silly stuff like this here. Really? Y'all have a nice day.
All right. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Good morning. Caller, are you there? It seems like,
and to Kathy's point,
like
I could pay rent in
notification,
2 places.
you sure could. It sounds like there's a certain level of public nullification going on, where people are saying, well, other people did such and such.
This what happened is what's happening with Trump right now. Come on now, on the grandest scale. How many people? 70 million people getting ready to do that on
3 inches
Trump.
from you. You better stop yelling at me.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Said 3 inches from you. There's no need
This
to
is what
yell.
happened with Donald Trump foolishness every day.
I agree.
Every day.
That was what precipitated talking about ethics and how, there is a book I use to really help me formulate sermons. It's on homiletics. And the guy says that there are 4 parts of a meaningful message. One is theos, God. The other one is logos, the word, scripture. Pathos, which is the passion that you bring, and you tie it into the human experience. And then ethos. What is the ethical, moral good that I'm trying to promote in this message?
Okay.
And so ethics is there, and I think, and I'm glad this piece, and let me shout out, this actually came from the University of California, Santa Barbara, McCullough School of Ethics, and people study. I mean, I always thought like
we took classes.
Like, is it an oxymoron to say business ethics?
No, you took classes.
Because business ethics is, whatever it takes to get the money, that's what you do, and then we have to then put laws into place to pretty much harness what unbridled capitalism will do. I mean, unbridled capitalism will put exploitation on steroids. So I think that, is it the ethics that like, for example, what Alito and Clarence Thomas is doing in terms of the gifts that they receive is not illegal, right? We question the ethics of it. How then ethically it should be, but you don't. But let's say,
yeah, but it's not.
But there's a higher
of this moment,
right?
Not.
So whether it's legal or not, the ethics is bigger than the legality of it.
Again,
should you be taking?
You can do it, but should you do it?
Right, and then ethically, and here's a word I'm hating, Debo, optics. Here is, because I'm so sick of everybody talking about the optics.
Hey, that's my favorite word.
I know. Oh, okay. So we got, but it gives the appearance of partiality, because there are cases that are either before or will become before the Supreme Court. And the question becomes, should they recuse themselves because they have a personal relationship with the people or indirectly with the people who are bringing those cases before the Supreme Court. That to me seems very ethical.
And the idea that they don't think that they should be governed in any way, like just nothing short of amazing. That you don't even think you should be governed.
Because
but no, I don't want to be in the camp of, I'm going to ignore what Aisha potentially has done. I'm not saying that. I just don't want it to be lost on how we got here, at least in terms of who initiates the investigation and their motivation. Because as we talk about new people being placed on the school board, what does that mean? If we have nobody that's not bought and paid for by the union.
But then I think the other piece and then we also have another group there.
That should be ethics too.
Yeah, but we also have MMAC. And they're buying and paying for certain candidates to get on the school board.
Well, all day long.
So what I'm saying is that I kept thinking to myself with all the recalls, if they are in fact, if they're successful in getting the signatures, where's the bench?
Well, I mean,
who's going to go on the school board?
And let me just do this because somebody had sent me a question like, well, what do you mean by bought and paid for? So again, the ability to help people get elected to some extent, and there will be people that will tell you, people who have done outside efforts for my campaign, it does not influence the way I behave. It does not influence the votes I take. It does not influence the meetings that I have, the legislations I pass. I'll say yay and nay, because there are some people, you didn't put in enough money for me to pay attention to what you're talking about. There are other people, the contributions are the difference between you being in that office and not being in that office. And so when you see, the amount of energy that goes behind a candidate, there are people who realize, especially on citywide races or large numerical races, I don't have the financial wherewithal to send out mailers to all these people, to do doors in all of these communities. So you take that help because otherwise you're not going to win. So you basically can buy a seat, because we have people saying right now, well, I've received 4 mailers from the candidate. That don't mean it's a good candidate. That's just about who had the money to get in front of your face.
We will probably, and I'll say probably, I will modify it, never have another Bill Proxmire.
You said that before.
Right. I'm just saying, and I'm talking about being able to do that level of retail politics with no money. That will never happen again. They spent 15, the most expensive. Now we just had the most expensive Supreme Court race, state Supreme Court race in the country.
Yeah, and Jamal Bowman's race yesterday
was the most
expensive congressional race in a primary within.
And here's what
he lost, y'all.
He sure did. And here's the interesting thing, because first of all, you lived in that district. I didn't realize that only 7% of that district is Jewish.
Because the way it's talked about, you
would have thought that it was like, but it's only 7%.
But what did I say? Money,
right?
And who shows up to vote?
Exactly.
I spent my whole morning on it yesterday.
You sure did.
Who shows up to vote? We give power away in majority minority districts when we don't take our behinds to the polls. Who shows up to vote? And then you don't understand the long range effect and the harm and or good, depending on what's happening, that it does to our community. But Jamal Bowman, and the one thing, just real quickly, this was the brother out of Westchester County who was running for his 3rd term in the House of Representatives, U.S. House of Representatives. One of the things he talked about, he was getting grief from Jewish people that he was paying too much attention to the issues of Black folks. And he said, but my predecessor, who had been in for 31 years, focused heavily on the Jewish community.
He was Jewish.
Yeah, and I'm saying, but my predecessor, who focused heavily on the issues of the Jewish community, nobody had anything to say. I come in, I'm working for all people, but I'm also highlighting the fact that for 31 years, this particular demographic was neglected, and now I got to get ran out of town. And he lost. Cori Bush gonna have a good chance of losing too.
You think?
I do. Cori Bush.
I didn't know he was a member of the squad. I thought the squad
was not. The squad supported him.
Oh, I thought the squad was all female.
No.
So when I saw him, I was like, when did he become?
No, he was just supported by
and
AOC.
He, and again, I don't live in that district. I'm only going on news clips, news accounts,
like most of us.
But that last rally he did, have you seen it? Yeah. I think for some people who were looking, first of all, let's just keep it 100. There are a lot of white people who will look at you being Black first.
Right.
And based on implicit biases, cultural biases, racial biases, they will go, I don't think that person is qualified. And
Jasmine Crockett.
And you more than qualified.
Jasmine Crockett, right? Lawyer, state legislator, and you got some chick sitting across the aisle from you questioning
with a GED.
Yeah, whether or not you should be in the room. Let your skin color come into play. Colorism.
And that's the only reason why we're asking the question, should you be in the room, because of how you look.
Right.
And so we dismiss people a lot of times based on that. And I think so. I don't know what else he was doing in this district, because here's the other thing that you can do. And I don't know if this is the same thing. If you're taking care of your constituent concerns, regardless of what you're doing, people go like, I disagree with him on that position. But when I called his office, blah, 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 blah happened.
Right.
And the example I always give is Murphy. I don't know why with Murphy.
So what did you think about the Khalif Rainey?
I didn't read it.
I didn't read it. I looked at some of the comments though, and Demia Causey.
Okay.
Like a lot of people had weighed in and said, Pastor Lanier had weighed in and said that Dan Bice did a hit piece on Khalif Rainey and talked about that he was only in the office basically 10% of the time in the last so many years.
That was surprising.
But the thing that I said, well, first of all, let's qualify it or quantify it. In fact, that some of those years were COVID years.
Right.
So okay.
How many votes did he miss? How many committee meetings?
And that should become the question. And so I just didn't read it because I didn't want to hear it. I just didn't read it. But there were people that defended Rainey and said that they thought he was responsible. He was this. Man, when I say Demia Causey came in and shut it down, she shut it down.
What an incredibly talented young woman.
Oh, I love her.
Oh my God.
I love her. I'm absolutely enamored with Demia. But when I tell you she shut that down, he still had his supporters, but Demia walked through it all. And
and let's just keep it. And we found this out doing my meat packing company.
Out of Franklin.
What was it?
I can't think of the name of the company.
Strauss. And
who are no longer in Franklin, but go ahead.
Right. Well, and your boy.
Who is my boy?
Rocky.
Who?
Rocky, wasn't it Rocky?
Marcoux,
yeah. Right. And I remember
Tom Bear's boy. Let's be clear.
I know. I'm being facetious.
I just want people, because they don't know who Rocky is.
Rocky, yeah.
Rocky
and he came in. I'm going like, oh, dude, you smooth. Can you blow up the map a little bit? Because what he showed was in Franklin, where the original Strauss location was. He said the neighbors are not complaining. Blow up the picture. First of all, there's a forest that separates them from and then I think the closest house is 3/4 of a mile away.
Yeah, the way it's spread out, it's not like you.
And so he showed the map. Well, look, they're not complaining. Like, dude, yeah. But I was hearing things from constituents who lived in that particular district about lack of response.
I did.
And so I think, and I say this all the time. I started at WGOB. This would be the issue when I would have electeds come on. And a person would call and say, hey, I called your office. They're talking to them directly. And I didn't get a call back. I'm going, that's damning. That should never happen. Now you can call in and say, I don't like the way you did it, but did you do it?
But like, even in the way Demia wrote her response, she just talked about like being an early, supporter, like, you could tell he was engaged. And she literally actually said, like, at some point you could see him wane off. Some of the interest was not there. Mentally, he seemed checked out on the job. It's not like I haven't heard that before, but I just thought that when other people she didn't just hit him. She gave reasons why and clear examples, concrete examples that I've heard before.
And she lives in the district.
She lives in the district.
Yeah,
and so she was like, no.
And I think that's the other thing I have to be careful of. I don't necessarily live in that district, right? And I don't always know. When we had they did a forum, Sherman Park did a forum. I don't know what district that was, the one that Jackson is representing now.
Okay.
That's 10. I'm in 10. I don't know. Excuse me. But one of the candidates didn't even live in the district. Now, you don't have to legally live in the district. But the question becomes, are you as invested in this district as Michelle is, who lives in this district, who has to deal with the issues in this district?
Right.
The three others did.
Yeah, personally impacted by what goes
Right.
on.
So in my mind, that's a little bit different because you got real skin in the game.
Right.
Now, Robert Kennedy did it in New York. Hillary Clinton did it in New York. That's different people. But I think on a local level, that makes a
Fred
real
Kessler
big
did it in Milwaukee.
Fred Kessler, your boy. So I understand that maybe people get burned out. It has to be.
I think one of my concern was, there, and like you said, you got to be careful because you don't live in the district. But I lived in the district for a number of years. I only moved out of the district in 2021, I think. I moved out of the district, but or 20, whatever. It was either 2020 or 2021. No, my mom died in 2021. Moved out of the district. So
it's been 4 years since your mom passed?
Yeah. Died during COVID.
Wow.
Yep, her and Gerald. It's been that long. So so there were things that I had concerns or questions about. I know like that hip hop week is his boy. He loves that. That's his pet project. Khalif. But there were other things that I would be questioning, like, well, kind of where are you on some of these?
Oh, the Strauss thing wasn't good.
Yeah. And that's literally how I became so vocal because I was so frustrated.
And then, but the question was, you knew this was coming. Now, here's the cynical piece of this. And I'll put this squarely with Tom Barrett, that you thought that this would be reasonable, that you put a slaughterhouse in a residential neighborhood and you'd be able to make an argument about jobs when the majority of people, if not all the people working there, don't even live in that neighborhood. What was the benefit to the neighborhood?
I mean, it was literally a campaign ploy and
like
tactic.
We got jobs.
Yeah. And I mean, because they rushed and the announcement for Strauss came out right when Lena was announcing. And so he wanted to jump out on the gun and say, I'm bringing 500 new jobs to the area.
Right.
And, then the devil's in the details, because then it wasn't 500 jobs right away. It's maybe over time, but 250 coming. And then these are existing employees. So in reality, most of them people going to transfer to where especially since you only come across town, you're going to be on a gated property. You're going to just come to work over here. Mm-hmm. So then you're not creating 250 new jobs. Right. And all of that just was so frustrating. And I remember me and Mark Belling getting into it because Mark Belling was like, well, it's not a slaughterhouse. I was like, it is. What are you talking about?
And I remember asking Tom Barrett this question. I said, would you want it in your neighborhood?
No, it's not going on. What is that? Washington Heights? No, it's not going on Washington Heights. Yeah. Ain't no liquor stores going on Washington Heights. It's a whole bunch of stuff we get over here that's not going over there.
It's like when you have CEOs of major corporations who support choice. Will you send your kids to those schools? Caller, welcome to the program. Welcome to the
Happy Vaseline Day.
Hey, what's happening? Hey. There was a reference to Vaseline yesterday when someone was talking about Michelle's radiance, and she said, no, that's Vaseline.
But anytime you see Michelle, you got that forehead is shining. She got the Vaseline.
You know what? That's the lights. It's the lights. Don't look over here.
It's not the slathering. It's the light.
It's the light. I got a big forehead.
Yeah, that's what we all say. It's the light.
We was talking about Snoop's forehead yesterday. Snoop's forehead is back here, but he's still rocking the braids.
Is that his forehead or his hairline?
Well, that's what I'm saying. His forehead is extended this way.
Your forehead don't extend.
Oh my God, Snoop, bro.
The other caller mentioned what's the Rittenhouse? Did you see where Rittenhouse, his family is about to get evicted? They got a GoFundMe so they can get paid. Like, really?
No, I ain't seen it. Let me look this up right now. I did not hear about this.
You asking the public for money so you don't get evicted. Go ask your son. You was taking him to the bar and you was giving him tips when he was shooting people. Go ask them. Don't ask the public.
But wasn't there some controversy about the money that was raised for his defense, and there was I think it was lawyers who started that GoFund, and the family was arguing whether or not they should be getting that money. There was some controversy around that money back when it first came out, right?
No, I'm talking about this. I seen this a couple days ago.
No.
They
What I'm
might be
saying
getting
is
it.
that, but he had money. They raised almost
That's what I'm saying. They got
$2 million.
money. They got
No,
money.
the lawyers got the money.
Well, either way it goes, you asking the
And he was
public
supposed to
for
be
money.
down your way because didn't he enroll at Arizona State? Wasn't he? That's where he's
And
supposed
guess
to go.
what?
They didn't want
And
him
guess
there.
what? They didn't want him there. They moved. They moved him
You can't
around.
get into Arizona State. You really got a problem. No disrespect to
They moved-
Arizona State, but I mean, it is not
They moved him
considered one of
around.
the august academic institutions in the country. As a matter of fact, doesn't it have a reputation for being a party school?
So
Oh yeah, definitely, because different parts, but definitely it's a part. They got a whole park called Tempe, and that's just number parties.
okay.
Number parties.
So this is his sister.
Did you look it up?
Who has started to go?
Yeah, she's looking it up.
Yeah, his Kyle Rittenhouse's sister Faith Rittenhouse started the GoFundMe because she said that their family's lives was uprooted after her brother was involved in the shooting. Here he is
As they
out
should.
in the country giving speeches, being supported by Turning Point USA, and that the family has just been unstable and he refuses to help.
Good.
She said she was only asking for $3,000.
Oh.
$2,100 was already donated by Friday of last week. Yeah, so she begging. So he got some money.
Wouldn't help the
Begging.
family.
He ain't
No.
helping. Don't sound like he is.
No.
Wow.
I didn't know he
Hey,
was with Turning
hey.
Point.
It's and guess what? It sounds like some white people problem to me.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
All right.
All right, you're listening to Community Voice. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Milwaukee. This is Michelle Bryant, your host of Say Something Real. When President Joe Biden wanted to talk to Milwaukee voters, he called WNOV. And welcome President Biden to Milwaukee and to WNOV. How you doing today, sir?
Much better, thank you. Where would I be? All right, it's rate policy. Is Mike going to get his own show?
He's got his own show. He's in every show.
He's in every show. 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Wednesday's word is ethics. And as I think this conversation, and it's supposed to be, this conversation can kind of, oh, what about this? What about that? That's really what goes into the choices that we make. We should be asking, what about this? What about this? We should be considering what are the consequences. One of the things that's really amazing that I've seen in my short time on this planet is that people start off on certain endeavors or where there's a certain level of sincerity and enthusiasm and innocence. And I heard this is being brushed by the wing, right? We can rationalize and justify a whole lot of behavior. And I'm saying, but then when faced with, I think dilemma is another word where you talk about, or a choice that you have to make ethically, is that a higher standard, I think. And again, as the author of the information I gave you pointed out, that one can be religious, but that doesn't necessarily mean that one is ethical, right? We found out that we one of the things, and let me just be fully transparent here, one of the real symbols well, the symbol of Christianity I really struggle with is the cross, right? Just how that symbol has been used. I was thinking about it when the Ku Klux Klan wanted to invoke terrorism, they burnt a cross. When the Knight Templars went into the Middle East, their symbol was a cross. And so the cross is problematic in world history as a symbol. It represents for Christians hope, eternal hope. But then its use has been used to promote some pretty evil things. I'll just be real simplistic. Some pretty evil things did in the name of religion. Do you know that the Geneva Convention is this whole sense of the ethics of war, right? What you can and cannot do to combatants in war. Some people follow it, many people don't. The number of POWs who were killed in World War II, right? Because whoever it was the Germans or the Americans. The Americans were more compassionate, more in compliance with Geneva. They talked about there were some black soldiers in this unit that was captured by the Germans, and the Germans pretty much wiped out most of the unit, took some POWs, but they unleashed a severe carnage on those black soldiers that they found, right? In violation of the Geneva Convention, because of the treatment of how you're supposed to treat prisoners of war. So even though we can attach ethics to it, trust me, just because people say that it's ethical, just because now, and they could be right when they're saying that it's religious, right? Because religion sometimes can promote hatred. It can promote ethnic superiority. If you look at how Jews viewed everybody who was not Jewish in antiquity, that's where that term Gentile comes from, dog, that they basically looked down because they felt that they were in a more superior position, based on where they were and allegedly where they were in terms of their relationship with God. So let me go on the record. I don't know if there's such a thing as God's chosen people. It seems to me that God created all of us. And so it would make, again, I say it all the time, make God capricious and arbitrary. And I don't think that she is. We have a caller. I'm going to get a call. Caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning. How you doing there, brother?
Good morning, man. Good hearing your voice. Good seeing you on Juneteenth.
I appreciate that. Interesting conversation this morning about ethics and rationalization, and I think that the political climate that we've been witnessing since the Trump dude got into office shows that the country has really lost their moral compass, and it's now situational ethics is being exhibited at the highest levels. I mean, you watch the former president of the United States is basically a crook. They knew he was an incorrupt guy going into the process, but these fools got behind him. That says to me, it wasn't him leading them. It was them having somebody to act out the way a lot of people really feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it also brought to light that there's a minority power structure in place that they want to keep things a certain way. I mean, to be honest with you, the president really, I mean, he has a role to play, but the president is irrelevant. It's these long-time career politicians and these lifetime appointees that are running the country.
Well, let me ask you a question, man. You said that we've lost our moral compass, right?
Yep.
Could we argue that ethically, how this country was formed might not be ethical? I mean, the fact that you stole land and then you stole bodies to work the land.
This is true. This is true.
I'm just saying that it seems that we've always had ethical challenges, not that, I don't know if this generation, I'm a little bit older than you, so I was a kid during the 60s, and certainly I became a young adult in the 70s, and I'm telling you, man, it was pretty wide open.
Well, I would say I'll say all countries, there's always been countries that have strife of some kind.
Okay.
So I think that just goes with people trying to, different people come along, they got different ideas, they manifest themselves in different ways. The founding of this country, if you look at it, was wrong in terms of the indigenous people, and it was wrong in terms of how second-class citizenship was exploited. That was wrong.
Yeah.
But this isn't the only country that dealt with issues like this. If you look at world history, this is all over.
Mm-hmm.
It is even today all over.
But you mentioned that, and Nazi Germany comes to mind, where then people began to suspend any kind of ethical questioning of the Nazi Party and primarily Adolf Hitler, and so I think that you can veer off a certain course. I thought America looked like it was on a better ethical course in 2020 as a response to George Floyd, but we found out that people kind of fell back into the status quo. So I think that America, being kind, just Keith, has always had its ethical challenges.
Well, I would say, the events of the day, first of all, you got different generations of folks who got different perspectives,
mm-hmm.
and certain issues come to every generational group, and the people who got really passionate about it have a response. The challenge is, once it's all you kind of get through it, what's the long-lasting change that's going to be put in place that you can build upon?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the part that's missing, because the fact that Trump, when Trump showed us 4 years of total chaos. He didn't do anything for people. He did what was good for himself, and he manipulated people to act out on his behalf. He don't care about those people.
Mm-hmm.
But he says the things that they want to hear from quote unquote their leader.
Mm-hmm.
But when the country had there was an opportunity to have a reckoning and call him out for they didn't do it. When they didn't do it, that showed me a whole lot. It showed me in that these people are illogical, or they act cultish, or they rationalize and justify it. Well, we'll let the court system take care of Trump. We'll let the voters take care of Trump. No, you have the ability to basically make him go away, and you didn't. And he, deprecated a lot of these people. And I'm like, what does he have on these people? Either he has some on them, or they scared. Or they say, you know what? He ain't going to be here long. we'll use him. He's a useful idiot. We'll use him, and we'll get our policies passed, a la stack the Supreme Court, a la change Roe versus Wade, a la other things that they want to do, and put the pieces in place where you get people who are willing to try and turn elections and look the other way. And the Supreme Court is a joke. You have more requirements to be ethical, working in a regular job. They give you rules, which you get you banned. And the rules are fair. But these people have decisions that affect millions of people, and there's no rhyme or reason. And when they get called out, you can't call them out. That's pretty. I want to be a president with him. I want to have ultimate immunity. And at the Supreme Court, I don't want to be held to no ethical considerations.
Well, and I think that, people is power, right? Number one.
Yep.
I think, though, what Hitler offered Germany, if anybody familiar with that history, was that Germany was, after World War I, not only were they decimated, right? They had to pay reparations for the damage. And so their economy, so when they got hit with depression long before the rest of the world got hit with depression, he offered them false hope. And I'm telling you, because I've graduated from how to be a cult leader, that's one of the things that cult leaders will do. They will provide a group of people who have a sense of hopelessness, right? I'm going to give you hope. And one of the things that they found out in the polling when it came to Trump was, if you look at the people who are the primary supporters of Trump, they're not necessarily poor white people, right? They're not college educated white people, but they're middle class people. And so what does he say to them? They're coming to take your job. So the fear, you use that word, the fear of losing something. I say it all the time. Is one of the real things that politicians use. They will play on your fear, right? And so if you fear losing something, if you're fearful of me moving into your neighborhood, if you're fearful, if you're a white guy, you don't want your daughter marrying a black guy, people come in and exploit that fear. Well, here's my guy, right? And so I think that we have to, and for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I don't know why good people feel like somehow they can stand on the goodness of what they do, because look, half the people don't endorse the goodness that you're purporting, right? And they're just as adamant about doing what they perceive, and I put in quotations, as good as you are.
Well, I'll just say this. Tomorrow night, it'll be interesting to see what happens, and then based on how that comes off, what kind of energy is going to be put into.
You think it's going to have impact?
I think it's not going to change. Put it this way: if you're for one of the two guys, that's going to change your mind. It's the people who are new to the process who either I don't really even know why I should be involved, or the people who are watching the who have been involved, but they're going, well, I'm quote unquote, I'm still undecided. You're gonna have to decide, and if the very opportunity you get to have at least one discussion with just them, with not a whole lot of props, with not no people in the audience, they just talking to the country, and how they come across is gonna reassure the people who, that's my guy, I'm sticking with my guy. It's the people who are new to the process and they're like, I don't even understand what the difference is, or does somebody say something that resonates with me to get me to be motivated enough to go out and participate in the process. Because
I think the fact that this polling is like 2 points separates them. That's the polling right now. And again, we take polling with a grain of salt, but it kind of tells you that it's probably bigger than Biden and is bigger than Trump. I think where the country is at this point, that's what it really sounds like it's coming down to, right? I would thought that if you have close to 60% of people who support abortion rights, then why isn't that being translated into 60% supporting Biden? Because at this point, Biden is getting a bad rap because of the economy. Inflation, high prices. If you're the president, part of Ronald Reagan's appeal was, he appealed to certain cultural things, but under Jimmy Carter, we had some of the highest inflation we ever had. So a lot of people were really suffering. Remember, we had the oil embargoes. If you're the president, you have to take responsibility when the economy goes back. And the economy is good. That's the crazy piece of it. But on a micro level, and that's something the vice president was talking about when we had that discussion. He said, yeah, on the macro level, it's great. The stock market is doing well. Corporations are doing well. Consumer spending is there. But then when you go on a micro level, the cost of food is so high. So what are people going to respond to? They're not going to respond to the abstract, which is the stock market, because most Americans don't invest in the stock market. But when you have to go to the grocery store, that more directly impacts you. And unfortunately, that's going to be saddled or that's going to be saddled on Biden.
Well, I'll just say, the people who are undecided or the people who are new and trying to figure out why should I even bother, if they pay attention at all, and if they watch and they go, I'm watching to see if, to help me sway my choice one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they hear a message that resonates what I call on the right side of history. Because if you don't understand any of this, would you like this guy? Would you like to work for this guy? Whether it was Bush, whether it's Biden or whether it's Trump, would you like to work for this guy? Would you like to be part of something that this guy is doing? And some people may say, well, I like the Trump dude. Okay, it is what it is. It's an election. But what I would hate to see happen is people. I don't like either choice, so I don't get involved at all. And sometimes you got to pick the lesser of two quote unquote evils.
Mm-hmm.
Trump and those folks have already stacked the system. Oh, if it's close, it's when they talk about rig, they didn't already put the rigging in place. I don't want it to be close.
I was thinking about this last night. I was watching a piece PBS did on the hip hop revolution, and they got to the 2000s, and they were talking about Obama, and how the rappers, everybody, they was lining up. Most black people lined up with Obama, right? And they were just talking about, oh man, what he brings to the table, man. The style, the da 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 da. And it reminded me that most of the electorate is not that deep. You know what I'm saying? When they're sitting up and they're wrestling tonight about what should our foreign policy be as it relates to Israel and Gaza. We talk about it, right? But what we're going on is what we see, okay? And Obama brought a certain kind of coolness so young people could be down with Obama, right? Because they down with Obama, their parents are not. But what happens when Obama's not on the ballot? It becomes a more difficult choice then, right?
It is. And quite honestly, Obama helped get Biden over the hump the last time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if and when Mr. Obama is going to reappear, but I don't know if the impact is going to be there like it was the first time.
And it's interesting, Bentley, when we were talking about when Trump first got in, one of the interesting things, and I, as this novice political scientist was kind of watching this, remember the 22 election? So many people showed up to vote in that 22 election, and the president wasn't even on the ballot, but people were out voting because of Trump. There were people out. So in 2022, and you saw people going in where the turnout was such. Was it 2022 or 2018? No, 2018. I'm sorry. Where people were coming out. So there are people there, but you just can't. You can't sustain passion as your reason to vote. You just can't muster up the emotions you need to do that. That's why voting has to be part of your DNA. That you go even when it seems like it's not important, because we find out that in fact it is important, right?
We do.
And people find out, like, and for all you deep brothers, I ain't, man, it's gonna impact you whether you vote or not. Okay,
that's the reality of it. And,
right.
And again, it's something you have the right to do. And you may decide you don't want to exercise it because that's your choice. But these folks, if the other side get in, they're gonna do some things. Like I never thought that Roe versus Wade would go down the way that it did.
Right.
But there's some other rights going to be taken away. And they're going to, at the fringes, they're going to eat away. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to give away your ability to have an impact on what happens in the country.
And why are people going after DEI? They can go after DEI now because they realize that they have a Supreme Court that's sympathetic to that position. Not to mention how well it goes over with white people, because that's who they're directing it at. They're not getting rid of DEI for my benefit. Obviously, it is not in my benefit for you to get rid of DEI. They're doing it for white folks who feel like you didn't get a job because we had to be fair and equitable in our hiring. And that's why you didn't get a job. You didn't get into Harvard because some black person has taken your position. Now, it's interesting that they go after black people. And then who do they use to sue? They don't use a white person. They did in Texas. They used an Asian, okay? Because with our cynical approach to racism, we figure, oh man, no, well, Asians are Asians. Asians have their own culture. Asians have their own lived experience in America. Some is similar. If you're Hmong, if you're Vietnamese, if you're Thai, Japanese, you can ask them about being Asian in America. If you're Chinese at this point, we're still dealing with, and I think they just got it off the books, the Chinese Exclusion Act. I mean, so they have their own thing, but to use a minority to say that equity and fairness impacts them because they have a higher percentage of folks going in. One of the reasons why Jewish folks were against affirmative action wasn't the rightness of saying people who didn't have access should have access. They felt like when they heard the word quota, you would limit the number of qualified Jewish people who could get into institutions. That's why they were fearful of quotas. Quotas go back to them, to the programs in Russia. It goes back to them with what they did in Nazi Germany. So that resonates with them when they said, look, we have more than enough people. Because now we're dealing with the chickens coming home to roost with the systemic racism of America. And so somehow we have to address it. And guess what? Some people are going to be collateral damage in how we address it.
Hey, man, I'm going to end on that. That was deep. So, good guys, great show today. I'm just sort of just listening, and a lot of issues going on, and the whole situational ethics, and doing things for the right reasons. But it's got to be just. And I don't know if you nationalize anything.
Well, before you go, let's stay real quick. I don't know if you were paying attention when Reverend Wanzo used to always talk about situational ethics. Right. I mean, it was one of those things. And at first I wasn't paying attention to it, but of course I take ethics in college. But his point was that we find ourselves in, and we have this kind of fluid ethnicity. His argument, I think, in that message was, but certain things is ethically, what I want to say, ethically not so much challenging, but requires a certain level of contemplation when you go into ethically what I want to do, because we have been faced or going to be faced with some decisions that we have to make, and then what do we do? What kind of decision do we make?
Well, it's interesting. It's like it's a very intellectual discussion. I got to let you run, but I appreciate what y'all doing, and y'all keep it up, man.
All right, appreciate you.
Bye.
Yeah, I mean, because the example I had given with okay, you meet someone who's married, right? And you fall in love with them. Now, as we understand how we fall in love with people, we don't really have a lot of control over that. That's one of those natural things we do in our husbandry, I'm talking about reproduction. And so you get this drive. But the question is, even though I'm in love with this person, ethically, then how should I do that? Right. I mean, and that's where it gets, what are cultural norms, what are laws, what is religious morality? Those things all kind of filter into what the people are going to do if they even get to that level of scrutiny in terms of decisions. Some people, I don't care, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Parris.
How are you, sir?
I'm well. Here. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I was listening to you and your guest, I imagine, I don't know, that was, but you all were talking about ethics or whatnot. Anyway, I wasn't calling about that primarily. I was thinking about this, and before Michelle had left, because she deals with politics. There was a moment the other day when I heard there was I think she was a Indian lady from India, and she was talking about black people and how she wanted to represent black people in the legislative position that has been vacated by now Judge Lena Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering how come this person, because the things that she had said, that she iterated, her utterances, I mean, they were not, they weren't scrutinized, they weren't challenged. She was just blasting off a lot of things in regards to her Indian manifestation.
That's what on the show, right?
I like the what I don't know her name, whatever.
No. I'm saying, but that program.
This is what I say this.
No. I'm just to give you a little background. Give me 30 seconds. That program is part of the Republican Party. She is a Republican. I don't know if you heard. She and I went at it when she was running for state rep. And
can you tell her that we're not going to vote for those people because you come from India and you are dark skinned? You have no understanding of what we have gone through here in America. So why don't you take yourself back to where you came from and work on and bettering those situations, because you are not qualified at all. None of these jackleg Johnny come latelys who are foreigners in every aspect of the word have no idea, and they do not have any compassion or understanding as what black people have endeavored in the hills and wilderness of America.
Well, I remember
coming before us, trying to persuade us to listen to you.
I remember my conversation with her. There's only been two guests. You're welcome. There's only been two guests that I've interviewed that have ever gotten to the point that I was going to fight. Right? I mean, because everybody know I keep it on 5. But Tori Lowe and Pernina Nath. And where I went after Pernina Nath was when she began to say, as Christopher pointed out, as an Indian immigrant, she said the mayor is black, the police chief is black. Wait a minute, where are we going with this? I think the other thing is that there are some who immigrate to this country who think that they are different or they're above certainly descendants of enslaved Africans and Latinos, and so yeah, that's real. They buy into this narrative, but what they don't know and what they will probably end up experiencing is that it was like what was the question? Who used to tell this joke all the time? Don King told this joke. And so excuse me using this word, but I'm only doing it in context of the joke he told. He's asked the question, as a lot of people said, he said, what do they call a black millionaire in Montana? Nigga. His point is that we cannot escape blackness in this country and what that represents in terms of the systemic nature of racism in this country. And there are people who are darker than us. And the amazing thing is, and I would suggest, and if she hasn't, that she read Isabella Wilkins' book, Caste, because she comes from a system that's even more rigid in its caste delineation of people and their status in society, right? Yeah. Oh my God. So I'm not surprised. Consider the source. Again, full transparency. This is one of 2 people in the 5.5 years I've been here where I really went at it with them. And it got, I don't know if it was personal, but it certainly got heated for me. So you take it all with a grain of salt. There's a whole lot of people who make the argument and they do the Republican mantra. And I heard someone who was saying to me that, there's some people I noticed that they did better under Trump than they are under Biden. I said if they did, it was because of Obama. Because it was Obama's recovery that Trump benefited from. Let me thank Miss Michelle Bryant. Let me thank Debo Harvey. Thank you, sir. Callers, we thank you. The good Lord willing, creek don't rise. I hope to talk to everybody tomorrow. And as always, go from this place in peace.